10.2.2a, and the goal in this video is to understand how to solve equations with absolute value. So the first thing that we need to understand is remember what is absolute value. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're going to review here. The definition of absolute value. Okay, absolute value asks the question. It's asking for the distance to 0. So for example, the absolute value of 10 is 10 because it takes 10 units to get to 0. But what's interesting is the absolute value of negative 10 is also 10 because it also takes 10 units. Distance is always positive, so that's another key thing to consider. Okay, absolute value is always positive. So these are some things that you should have noticed recently when you learned about absolute value, and that we're going to need to understand in order to solve equations with absolute value. So there's two really good strategies that you've been learning about that are key and essential to solving absolute value equations. And one of them is look inside, and the other is undoing. Look inside, remember, is simply what it sounds like. We look inside of something and think about what that value has to be. So let's show you what look inside is with the first two examples here. So look inside, I'm looking inside to this x because this is inside the absolute value, and I think about what numbers could I put inside and get an answer on the outside of 13. Okay? Well, hopefully you're realizing that the number 13 could be put inside because the absolute value of 13 is 13. But there's another value that you could use. The absolute value of negative 13 is also 13. So our two solutions in this case that we would write and give as an answer on a test is x equals 13 or negative 13. Those are the two ways to get solutions to this equation. So by looking inside. This next one is also, we're going to look inside, but it's a little bit different because we're looking inside, and inside we see x minus 5. So let's think about this. What are the values that x minus 5 could be? This inside could be exactly 11. So this could be 11. If this was 11, then this would work because the absolute value of 11 is 11. So what would make this 11? What x could I put right here so that I get an answer in the end of 11? If you're not great with your mental math, then you simply solve this equation I've written. We're asking when is x minus 5 11? Well, let's solve it. Add 5, let's get x alone. X is 16. So apparently if I put 16 inside, 16 inside the absolute value, or x's, I'm going to get an answer of 11. Let's see, absolute inside I get 11, absolute value of 11 is 11. But remember, there's another way to get 11. There's another way to get 11. If the inside here was negative 11, the absolute value of negative 11 would also give you 11. So I could also solve the equation x minus 5 equals negative 11. Because if this is a negative 11, the inside was negative 11, I would get an answer of 11 on the outside. Because the absolute value of negative 11 is 11. So let's see, I'm going to solve this equation now. So I'm going to add 5, and I get x equals negative 6. So let's test this answer to make sure we agree with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it back in for my x here. So negative 6 minus 5 equals 11. Simply plugging it back into my equation. On the left, I get absolute value of negative 11, and that is, in fact, equal to 11. So this answer works as well. So these are the two answers you will get. X could be 16, or x could be negative 6. But what we did was we thought about what numbers could be inside of that absolute value to give me an answer of 11. And then we solved from there, because there are two solutions to most absolute value equations. So let's take a look at this one. This one will take undoing. Because on the inside of the absolute value, I just have x, and we think about x as being inside of parentheses. But I have to get rid of that 2, but the 2 is not inside, the 2 is outside. So I'm going to first start by undoing this 2 so that I simply have the absolute value of x left over. Well, how do we undo the 2? Couple of things to notice, that this 2 is actually saying 2 times the absolute value of x. Just like when we write 2 with x in parentheses, that means 2 times x. The same thing is true here. So to undo the 2, we actually divide both sides by 2. Think about it, we're making a 1 that we can cancel. But what we do to the right, we have to do to the left. So the absolute value of x has to equal 16, because 32 divided by 2 is 16. Now I can look inside and I can think, okay, what 2 numbers, is there 2? There might be 2, there might just be 1. What numbers did I put in there to get an answer of 16? Well, one answer is 16, because if I put 16 in, the absolute value of 16 is 16. The other one is negative 16, because again, the absolute value of negative 16 is 16. So I was looking at the 2 possible solutions that could be on the inside. So, looking inside, undoing. Example 3, though, has both again. So notice you have the 3 on the outside of the absolute value, and then 2x minus 8 inside. So let's first get rid of the outside. Let's undo the 3, just like we did with the 2 above. Let's get rid of the 3. Okay, we're getting rid of the outside first. We're undoing that multiplied by 3 by dividing by 3. And we get the absolute value of 2x minus 8 equals 10. I got rid of one thing. But now we have to get rid of the absolute value. We don't really know how to do that, but what we can do is look inside. So let's see, the absolute value of something equals 10. Well, there's 2 somethings that can go in there. One number is 10. The absolute value of 10 is 10. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look inside and think about when I get 10 here. So I'm going to solve this equation. When is this equal to 10? Solving for x will be really simple at this point. I'm looking for when this is 10. So I'm going to solve for x by adding 8. I get 2x equals 18. Divide by 2, I get x equals 9. So one solution is 9, because that will give me a positive 10 on the inside of my absolute value. But remember, we want to look for all solutions. So what other number could I put inside? The other number I could put inside is negative 10, because the absolute value of negative 10 is 10. So negative 10 could also equal this quantity here. So if 2x minus 8 gave me an answer of negative 10, I would get a solution to my absolute value equation. So solving for x here, same steps, it's just going to have 2 different answers here. So I get negative 2 on the right equals 2x. Dividing by 2, x equals negative 1. So my 2 solutions are x equals negative 1 or x equals 9. Let's check this negative 1 just to make sure we understand what it means. So if I put in 4, so I'm going back up to my original equation. Apparently if I put in negative 2, I will get a solution. I'm sorry, negative 1. So 3, absolute value of 2 times negative 1 minus 8. Does that equal 30? So solving using order of operations, so we do absolute value. We have to do inside the parentheses first, so we get negative 2 minus 8, which is negative 10. And then the absolute value of negative 10 is 10, so 3 times 10, which is in fact 30. And that's what it should have equaled. So we have negative 1 is a solution. So these are my 2 solutions. You could verify 9 is a solution as well. So these are simple calculations to make sure I got the right answer. But it's important you understand that absolute value has a positive and a negative solution. So give these next few problems a shot. Try questions 1 and 2. And check back here for the answers. So pause the video, try the first 2 problems, and then check back for the answers that I'll have here. But make sure you show your work, because your work will not be accepted unless it has been shown. So show how you got your answers. And be sure to ask your teacher if you get stuck. Pause the video at this point, please. So here are the first 2 solutions. Hopefully you got the first 2 right. Do your best to try to undo if necessary, and then look inside. But these first few problems did not require any undoing. Starting with question 4, though, you will want to undo the outside of the absolute value before you look inside. Okay? Be sure to ask your teacher questions if you got any of these wrong or have any questions on these problems.